So I was walking through my local Kroger on my biweekly grocery run, and I noticed my favorite aisle, which is obviously the clearance aisle of Kroger, was replaced with a bunch of slot machines. Now, I thought that gambling was illegal in Georgia, and it turns out it's completely legal as long as you just give them store credit instead of actual money. So they're considered prize machines. So Japan's been doing this for literally years. It's called pachinko machines, and they've been around since like the 70s and 80s. And the West has just finally caught on about 50 years late. We live in a society where you can put a $1.50 hot dog on a pay in four. And we have removed all economics, statistics, financial accounting from schools, which is interesting considering that the lottery is one of the primary funds for most of our high schools and middle schools. And the stock market has become so speculative even recently. So take a simple news story. I just completely took that.
Weird spot of audio there.
Great. Let's do this here. Take a simple news story like Twitch.tv, a gaming streaming platform, is starting to lose its market share over to Kick.tv because their streamers are not getting paid enough and a lot of people are moving over. People just go and they triple the stock within a couple of months and they don't even realize it's really just some random dude's international karate company.
Wow.
Kick.tv is just a private equity firm. You can't actually buy stock in it. We've seen sports gambling take pretty much this nice little recreational fellowship that we have with each other where we can just argue about whose team is best and turn it into a way that we could just make money or lose money more likely. We can bet on literally anything in society. We can see an over-under on how many tweets Elon Musk has. Will Donald Trump win the Nobel Peace Prize? If things will happen before or after GTA 6 is released? And which country will Pope Leo visit first? And there's actually about $2 to $3 million on each of those. If you look at it, we got the size of the next meteor that's going to hit us. 10 kilotons would probably destroy most of the United States. And of course, we have Will Jesus Christ return in 2025? There's about $576,000 on that.
We gotta get that up.
So the world's not shy about misusing money and trying to suck you into its vortex of not using money properly either. And you probably heard this before. People say money is evil. Really, it's the love of money is evil. I don't think many people think much past that. It's like, okay, don't love money. All right, I don't love money, right? But when you break it down, I think it's pretty simple. We just see a lot of people just want to be rich in society. Like, a lot of people are also very lazy. And we have another subset of people who don't have a moral doctrine and think of themselves over others. And this third set of people is very easily able to take advantage of the first two sets of people. So if we break it down, we really see our very typical sins we have. If we want to be pedantic, greed is really just envy. So this passage today that kind of inspired most of this, it's called the parable of the steward, the dishonest steward, or the shrewd manager, depending on which translation you have. I'm going to read the whole thing this time. I think it's important. Jesus told his disciples there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be a manager any longer." So the manager said to himself, "What shall I do now? The manager's taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm too ashamed to beg. I know what I will do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses." So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, "How much do you owe my master?" 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager said, "Take your bill, sit down, and make it 450. He then asked the second, "How much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, "Take your bill, make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. Now, Jesus says, as the sort of mic drop moment or the message of this thing, "I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can be trusted with very much. Whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches?" The money you have is important. It's not just evil. It's not just something to spend and come back. And yes, we can do it, and don't feel guilty if you do. Not everything has a lot of weight, but it has weight. It's a tool. It is a gift from God. Your ability to make money is something that God has given you to allow yourself to live life and to use it to spread His will. It's the fruit of your time and your effort. Your job is your conversion from your time and your effort to money. And of course, it's important. If it wasn't important at all, the world wouldn't try so hard in one, taking it from you, and two, sucking you into its vortex of endless consumerism. So how do we break away? The first option is we just consume nothing, don't eat, don't buy anything. We go up into the mountains and we become a monk and we teach karate. We can run away. If you've ever heard the parable of the talents, that doesn't go very well for the person with a single talent. So what you do instead is you make a corporation, you name it after a popular streaming site, and you watch as your stock triples. Alternatively, and we're getting into kind of opinion territory, this is something that I just think about in general. You can adopt it, you cannot, but we can just split it up into a needs, our future, and our wants categories, and we can kind of think critically about what our actions are in this life and what we do. If you notice, there's a lot of Bible verses in the bottom left. We just don't have time for a lot of it, so it's kind of like a research paper. You can look at it as we go along. So let's take the first dimension. Now, this is where that video would have been really useful, but we have a $150 bucket of ice and a $50 scoop versus a $2 bag of ice. They both have the same function. Let's be honest, it's pretty close. They both hold ice. When you're eating, you can have steak. You can have beans and rice. They both are food. You can have a massive mansion. You can have a small apartment. They're both shelter. This one-dimensional thinking of just doing money to money and not thinking much past it's very good for identifying what is an actual need. But really, it's too limited in thinking much past that. It's really good for talking about value. I'm a proud SIPS Club member that completely abuses the system so much that my parents and I use it, and it's, we've gotten over $1,000 this year off of something that costs about $30 so much. We can determine value. Again, it doesn't give us the whole picture. So let's add a second thing, something arguably more important than money. It's time. The news wants it. You want every movie, everything you've done in entertainment wants it. Your phone screen wants it, of course. People want it. Your work wants to take as much of it as possible. So let's add time to money and talk about convenience. There's entire industries based on this. Before it was 7-Eleven up north. I don't know how much it's gone down here. But convenience stores, fast food restaurants have all kind of preyed upon our need for convenience. And of course, the most recent one is really food delivery service. We don't even got to go out of our homes to go get fast food if we want to be that lazy, to be honest. Which is fine for people if you have the money. So let's talk about hummus. So hummus is one of the things I have beef with. Okay, hummus and I got some beef. It makes a good shawarma. But what hummus is just these ingredients. It's really not that hard. And if you made it yourself, it's $1.49. And if you see, it's about $4 to $5, depending on where you buy it from in the store. And you would think it's really hard to make. That's the entire recipe right there. Just put it in a blender. So it takes about 45 seconds, and you would save about $4, $3 to $4. And some people that may be important, some people that may not be important. Again, that's just kind of a critical thinking on an action. That's all it is. And we can take this to another account. Food delivery services are a good example of this. You can get a burger and fries delivered to your house for like $32, put it in a restaurant for $20, putting in a frozen meal ready to eat sort of way for $9. If you make everything at home, it probably costs you about $4. If you make the bread and everything from scratch, you may save another $1. But obviously that takes a ton of time at that point. So you have extra time to save you money. And again, that's the determination you got to be with. And this is still very much way too narrow focus to really think about for actions, because there's a lot of different dimensions and things and implications that every action you take in this life take. Here's a couple examples that I have. I bolded a couple that I think are really important. Relationship with others, your spirituality, and your integrity, I think are a lot more important than a lot of other ones. But take an example of the hummus again. not only when I make it myself, I'm saving money and exchanging time for money, I probably make a healthier product. I am able to share it with many other people. I have the knowledge of it. I am trying to think of other ones. That's pretty much it. It makes me happy. Why not? I like making hummus. We're getting this stretching a little too far, but just taking these critical actions in specifically important decisions in life, but really any decisions in life, if you just look and you take the action, you ask which of these would it satisfy and what are you giving up to do that? And you weigh those against each other, you're already past 99% of people. And really we're getting to this final point of delayed gratification, which is something that's sorely missed, is that you have an ability to resist an immediate reward for a more significant reward in the future. So do you go and spend all your money, every paycheck, on things that you want to live life to the fullest now? Or do you think about what are you going to do in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, retirement, etc.? Are you able to sacrifice maybe 10% now to make sure you have that easier in the future? So your output is the same as your input. So not only your spending matters in this way, you have your work. So ideally, you should be in a position in your job where you're getting a little more than just a transfer of time and money. Hopefully, you can go down that list and say it's something I enjoy. That doesn't always happen. It's something that I believe is good for society. It's good for God's plan. And it would be really nice if that happens. Sometimes it isn't, though. And the video is not going to work, but it is just a video of, it's a 15-minute short film of basically they synthesize it down into your job is to stand in the square from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Some people might have seen it. And they go through life, and his friends come by, and they're skaters. And he's like, you want to go skating with us? We're going to go and hang in the park. He's like, no, I'm working. I'm sorry. I can't do it. And then a girl runs by, gets her purse stolen, and he can't leave the square because he's working. And then he's halfway through, and he gets that promotion. He goes from this square to this square that's 30% bigger over here and gets a bigger amount of pay. And he gets promotion after promotion after promotion until the very last scene where you see him he's in his 70s. He has white hair and a full beard, and he's like, I'd like to retire now. And he goes and he trades his watch for a skateboard, and he goes and he tries to skate, and he falls flat on his face at the very end. So you can go the exact opposite way of spending too much, where you can just sacrifice way too much too quickly on just for your work and for your own future, I suppose, but for the sake of money, really. And you can love money that way, which is bad as well, because you will then get to a point in your life where you can't do the things you can do now. That's what the video is. And you can sacrifice more things than just your time. You've seen the sleazy used car salesman. You can sacrifice your integrity to get further ahead in your job. You can become a financial miser and become Ebenezer Scrooge and just stockpile, and don't give it to anybody. Don't do anything that gives you joy in life. You can work yourself literally to death, I suppose. And just look at your job, look at the dimensions and the things that it happens. And you may need to pray about and think about whether or not you are putting adequate amount of time for your job, putting too much time in your job. Are you in the right field? Are you doing the right things? Are you just taking the right position in your work? Because I will say, especially integrity in relationship will get you farther than a lot of different things on this list when it comes to work. So it's the same question. Well, you have your spending, you have your goals. So if you succeeded your goal, what would it satisfy? And what would you have to give up for that goal? If you were going to become a CEO of a company, how much of your life would you have to sacrifice, and what would you get in return? You get a whole lot of money. Is that enough important for the sacrifice you're going to take of working 100 hours a week for the next 20 years of your life, let's say? So God's command is just be good stewards, and I think this verse, again, is just really what you should think about when you're spending money and you're working for money. Is just use your worldly wealth to gain friends, because really when it's gone, there's nothing in this world that matters. It's what you're able to bring to the next life, which is relationships with people. Be intentional with your money. If you think about it more than a second, you're ahead of most people in this life. Okay.